There is a moment in every life when we must ask, what am I holding on to and why? Many people walk through life carrying invisible weights. Regret, anger, the need to prove something to someone, and these things, they become heavy. Detachment is not disconnection, it is freedom from control. This is one of the most misunderstood truths on the path of inner strength and clarity. Many people think that to detach means to stop caring, to become numb, or to retreat from life. But true detachment is none of these things. True detachment is a form of wisdom. It is the understanding that we can remain connected to people, dreams, and experiences without allowing them to govern our emotions, decisions, and self-worth. In life, we form attachments quickly. We become attached to identities, titles, relationships, outcomes, and even the way we think things should be. When things go well, we feel elated. When they fall apart, we collapse with them. This roller coaster comes not from life itself, but from the attachment we have to its passing forms. To detach is to choose balance over turbulence. It is to hold something in your hands with gentleness rather than a tight grip. When we hold too tightly, we break what we love, and we exhaust ourselves trying to control what we never could. Control is a form of fear. We fear loss, failure, judgment, uncertainty. So we try to hold on. But the tighter we hold, the more tense we become, and tension blocks flow. A detached mind is not a mind that is cold. It is a mind that can observe without being overwhelmed. It sees clearly because it is not clouded by the storms of desperation or over-attachment. It listens without trying to control the outcome. It acts from calm, not chaos. Freedom from control is not laziness or passivity. It is a quiet confidence that knows when to act and when to step back. It is the power to engage deeply with life while keeping your inner peace intact. For example, when someone you care about says something hurtful, an attached mind reacts instantly. It defends, attacks, or retreats. But a detached mind pauses. It breathes. It recognizes that another person's words are a reflection of their inner state, not your worth. This space between reaction and response is where your power lies. Attachment often comes from identifying with what we are not. We believe, I am this job, I am this relationship, I am this reputation, and when these things are threatened, we panic. But you are none of those things. You are the awareness behind all those roles. Detachment brings you back to this truth. It allows you to show up fully in your life while remaining rooted in who you are beyond circumstances. The practice of detachment does not mean you stop loving. On the contrary, it allows you to love more purely. Because love without attachment is not based on fear or need. It is based on presence. You do not cling to the other person to complete you. You see them clearly, honor them as they are, and allow them to be free, just as you allow yourself to be free. This is love without conditions. Similarly, when you work toward a goal with detachment, your actions become cleaner. You are no longer obsessed with results. You do not sacrifice your well-being chasing a finish line. You give your best and then you let go. And in that letting go, you regain a sense of peace, trust, and inner power, because you know that no external outcome can add or subtract from your core. To detach is not to turn away. It is to stand in the middle of the storm with a quiet mind and an open heart. It is to witness life fully, participate fully, but never lose yourself in the process. When you detach, you no longer seek to possess or control. You simply experience, respond, and release. This is where true presence begins. Letting go honors the end of a season, not the value of what was. In every journey, there comes a time when something must be released. Not because it wasn't meaningful, but because it has fulfilled its purpose. This is the rhythm of nature, of growth, of transformation. A tree doesn't hold onto its leaves forever. Even though they once captured the sunlight and gave the tree life, there comes a moment when they must fall. It's not a rejection of the leaf's importance. It's simply the recognition that its time has passed. The same applies to people, habits, identities, and phases in life. There are friendships that were once nourishing but have since become draining. There are roles we once played proudly, but that now limit our growth. There are versions of ourselves we once needed to survive, but they no longer align with who we are becoming. Letting go of these things is not an act of dismissal. It is an act of reverence. It says, thank you for what you gave me, and now I release you so we can both evolve. Holding on for too long creates suffering. We begin to mistake familiarity for truth. We stay in comfort zones because they feel safe, even if they are slowly suffocating us. But growth lives outside of that space. And to grow, we must learn to say goodbye with grace. The ending of a season is not a failure. It is a sign that you have outgrown the chapter you were in. Letting go creates space for what's next. Many people struggle with letting go because they believe it means forgetting or devaluing what once was. But memory and attachment are not the same. You can remember with gratitude and still release. You can love someone deeply and still know that it's time to walk away. You can appreciate a job or a dream and still recognize that holding on is now costing more than it's giving. Letting go is not a rejection. It's an act of deep listening to the truth within you. When you ignore the signs that a season is ending, life often has a way of forcing the change. You experience burnout, frustration, misalignment. You feel stuck, restless, uncertain. These are not punishments. They are whispers, urging you to move. When you ignore the whisper, it becomes a storm. But if you respond to the whisper, you move with grace instead of struggle. The process of letting go is often quiet. It's not always dramatic or visible to others. Sometimes, it's the decision made at midnight to no longer chase someone's approval. Sometimes, it's the quiet packing of emotional baggage that you decide not to carry into tomorrow. Sometimes, it's the subtle shift in energy when you stop resisting the truth and start accepting what is. These moments are not loud, but they are powerful. Letting go also means trusting that life will bring what is meant for you in the right time. It means releasing the illusion of control and surrendering to the unfolding. When you hold on too tightly to one chapter, you miss the beauty of the next. Life is not meant to be one stagnant experience. It is a series of transitions, each with its own lessons and gifts. By honoring the end of one phase, you open yourself to receive the blessings of the next. There is courage in letting go. It requires faith, awareness, and a willingness to face the unknown. But the unknown is not empty. It is full of possibility. What feels like loss is often just the clearing away of what is no longer aligned. And in that space, something new begins to take shape. Something more in tune with who you truly are. Letting go is not forgetting the past. It is understanding that your life is not meant to live in it. Reclaiming power begins when you stop identifying with pain. Pain is inevitable in the human experience, but suffering is often the result of the stories we attach to that pain. When something hurts us, whether it is betrayal, failure, loss, or disappointment, it leaves a mark. That mark is real. But over time, we begin to wear that mark like an identity. We say, I am broken. Instead of, I have been hurt, we say, I am a failure. Instead of, I experienced a setback. And when we repeat these stories often enough, they become the lens through which we view ourselves and the world around us. To reclaim power, one must step back and observe the story being told internally. Ask, is this pain defining me, or simply reminding me? Pain is a teacher, not a permanent label. It shows us where healing is needed, where boundaries were weak, where love was misdirected. But it is not meant to become the foundation of who we are. The moment we begin to separate our identity from our wounds, we create space for something new to emerge. Resilience, growth, clarity. There are people who walk through life carrying every hurt they've ever experienced as proof of why they can't move forward. They live from the wound, not the wisdom. But wounds are not homes. They are portals. When we resist healing, we keep reopening the same cuts expecting a different result. But when we choose to stop identifying with our pain, we take the first step toward liberation. We begin to see that we are not our trauma. We are not our heartbreak. We are not the rejection. We are the awareness that experienced it, and the awareness is untouched. This shift in perspective is not about denying pain. It is about no longer worshipping it. Some people cling to pain because it is familiar, because it gives them a sense of identity or even justification for inaction. But this is a prison of the mind. To reclaim power is to say, I acknowledge what happened. I feel what it brought up. And now, I choose not to let it dictate who I am. Reclaiming power is a quiet decision. It happens in moments when no one is watching. When you choose to forgive, not for others, but for your own peace. When you choose to get up again after falling. When you choose to speak kindly to yourself, even when the inner critic is loud. Each of these choices chips away at the identity built on pain and builds a new one. Built on self-trust, self-respect, and sovereignty. There is a clarity that comes when pain is released from the identity. It does not mean you forget what happened. It means you stop reliving it emotionally as if it's still happening. The past cannot be changed, but your relationship to it can. When you stop identifying with pain, you start identifying with presence. And presence is where power lives. In presence, you respond rather than react. You choose rather than chase. You create rather than repeat. Pain often pushes us into survival mode, but healing invites us into conscious living. To reclaim power is to reclaim authorship of your life story. It is to realize that the narrative can shift, that you can move from victim to student, from student to teacher, from teacher to creator. Power is not noise. It is not aggression or dominance. It is the stillness that comes when you know who you are, regardless of what you've been through. It is the ability to hold your past in one hand and your potential in the other, and to choose to build with the latter. This power has always been within you. It was just buried under the weight of unhealed experiences, mistaken identities, and unconscious patterns. The moment you recognize that you are the observer, not the pain, you begin to reclaim what was never truly lost, yourself. A calm, focused mind is the foundation of true strength. In a world that constantly demands attention, urgency, and reaction, the ability to remain still within is a rare and powerful skill. Many people associate strength with force, speed, or the ability to overcome others. But true strength begins in the mind. It is not how loudly you speak, how fast you move, or how much you can control. It is how well you can stay centered when everything around you feels uncertain or chaotic. The mind, left untrained, behaves like a wild animal. It jumps from thought to thought, reacts to every external trigger, and creates noise where there could be peace. This mental noise is the root of much suffering. It clouds judgment, fuels emotional storms, and leads to decisions made in haste or fear. But when the mind is calm, it becomes like a still lake, clear, reflective, able to perceive reality without distortion. In that state of clarity, even the most complex challenges become navigable. Focus is not just about attention, it is about intentional attention, choosing what deserves your energy and what does not. In every day, we are presented with distractions, notifications, opinions, comparisons, unresolved emotions. A focused mind learns to turn inward before turning outward. It understands that not every thought needs to be followed, not every emotion needs to be expressed, and not every situation demands immediate reaction. This restraint is not weakness, it is wisdom. Training the mind to be calm and focused requires daily discipline. Just as the body is strengthened through repeated movement, the mind is strengthened through stillness, observation, and presence. Practices like meditation, breathwork, and intentional silence create the space for the mind to unwind its habitual reactivity. In that space, a new quality emerges, awareness. And with awareness comes choice. A strong mind is not one never experiences fear, doubt, or anger. It is a mind that sees these emotions arise and does not get swept away by them. It recognizes the emotion without becoming it. It allows the wave to rise and pass without losing the shore. This inner stability allows a person to lead their life with clarity, even during moments of external turbulence. Leadership, whether over a family, a team, or one's own life, requires this kind of mental clarity. Without it, actions are reactive and choices are scattered. In moments of crisis, the strongest individual is not the one who speaks the loudest or moves the fastest, but the one who can stay quiet for a moment longer. In that pause, they see options others miss. In that space, they remember what truly matters. That pause is the gift of a calm, focused mind. It allows you to act with purpose instead of panic. The world rewards noise, but transformation begins in silence. When you can sit with yourself, without distraction or escape, you begin to meet the parts of you that have been hidden under noise, the insecurities, the old wounds, the inner critic. And instead of running, you observe. Observation transforms. Awareness dissolves fear. And in that inner stillness, you begin to feel the quiet hum of something deeper, your intuition, your grounded truth, your unshakable presence. True strength is not about avoiding discomfort, but being able to sit in it without losing yourself. A focused mind is not fixated, it is open yet anchored. It does not chase every possibility but chooses with care. It does not depend on others for stability, but creates stability within. This strength is invisible, yet it touches every part of life, from how you speak, to how you walk, to how you meet challenges. It is the foundation beneath action, the calm beneath chaos, the power beneath the surface. Peace comes when you stop clinging to outcomes and timelines. Much of human anxiety is born not from the present moment, but from our obsession with the future. We want things to unfold in a certain way, at a certain time, and when they don't, we feel lost, frustrated, or defeated. This attachment to how and when keeps the mind in a state of constant resistance. We resist what is, and in doing so, we block the peace that already exists within us. There is nothing wrong with having goals, dreams, or visions. The problem begins when we become so attached to the result that we forget the journey. When we measure our worth by external outcomes, we place our peace in the hands of circumstances we cannot control. The truth is, the world does not always follow our plans. Life has its own rhythm and its own timing. Learning to trust this rhythm is the doorway to deep inner freedom. When we let go of the need for a specific result, we allow space for something better, something wiser, to unfold. Sometimes what we want is not what we need. Sometimes the delays are protection. Sometimes the detours are the actual path. But as long as we are fixated on how things should be, we remain blind to how they are. That blindness causes suffering. We begin to compare, to doubt, to judge ourselves and others. We forget that we are not here to force life into a narrow script. We are here to experience, to learn, to grow, and to allow life to move through us. Clinging is a form of fear. It says, if this doesn't happen exactly as I imagine, I won't be okay. But you are okay. You've always been okay. Even in the moments you thought you were breaking, something deeper was holding you together. Peace is not something you chase. It is something you uncover when the noise of fear and control begins to quiet down. This quiet comes not from passivity, but from presence. Presence does not argue with reality. It allows things to be as they are, and responds with clarity. It watches the seasons change, the clouds pass, the emotions rise and fall, without holding on. When you are present, you don't need to know the entire plan. You just take the next step, and then the next. This is how life unfolds. One breath, one action, one moment at a time. Expectations, when held too tightly, become prisons. They limit your ability to adapt, to evolve, to see the unexpected beauty in what is unfolding. How many times have you resisted a change, only to later realize it was necessary? How many times has something not worked out, only for something greater to take its place? Peace comes when you no longer see these moments as accidents, but as part of a deeper intelligence guiding your path. Letting go of timelines is not giving up. It is stepping into flow. Flow does not rush and it does not delay. It simply moves with what is. The sun rises without being rushed. The river flows without being pushed. You too have a natural rhythm, and your peace grows when you align with it rather than fight against it. This alignment cannot be forced. It requires stillness, listening, patience. The mind may try to convince you that peace will come after the achievement, after the relationship, after the problem is solved. But peace is not a reward at the end. It is a way of being. It begins the moment you stop waiting and start allowing. It lives not in the future, but in the now. The moment you release your grip on how things must go, you create the space for serenity to enter. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because your relationship with it becomes softer, more accepting, more open to the mystery that life always is. In the silence of release, your true self reawakens. Silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is the space where truth begins to speak. In a world full of noise, voices, screens, distractions, expectations, most people forget what their own inner voice sounds like. They live constantly surrounded by input, but rarely sit long enough to hear what is arising from within. But when you let go, when you detach from what you've been clinging to, something remarkable happens in the stillness that follows. A part of you that had been drowned out begins to stir, a presence that is not trying to be anything, just simply is. This is the self that existed before the labels, before the roles, before the stories were written. It is not trying to prove anything. It is not chasing anything. It simply observes, breathes, and witnesses. This self does not argue with reality. It does not resist what is. And because of this, it holds a quiet kind of power. One that doesn't need to shout or force its way through the world. A power that arises from depth, not display. But to access this self, something must first be let go. Sometimes it is the ego that must be released, the constant needing to be right, to be liked, to be seen in a certain way. Sometimes it is fear, the voice that says you must hold on to the familiar, even when the familiar is harming you. Sometimes it is attachment to a past identity or dream that no longer fits who you are now. And when you finally stop holding on, when you no longer cling to what has already ended, you enter a silence that is not empty but full. It is in this space that clarity comes. Not from thinking harder or trying more, but from simply allowing yourself to listen. The deeper truths of life do not shout. They are not found in the rush. They come like a whisper, in the spaces between thoughts, in the gentle awareness that arises when the mind is no longer reacting. In this space, you begin to see more clearly, not just the world around you, but the patterns within you, the fears that kept you small, the illusions that clouded your judgment, the borrowed dreams that were never really yours. In this inner stillness, you reconnect with your own inner wisdom. You remember that strength is not found in noise or resistance but in alignment. You begin to feel again, not the surface-level emotions driven by habit or reaction, but the deeper emotional truths that reveal what really matters to you. You realize that so much of what you were chasing was never necessary. So much of what you were running from was never dangerous. The silence strips away the unnecessary, until only what is essential remains. There is a natural intelligence that begins to move through you when you are not consumed by clinging. You act, but from presence. You speak, but from awareness. You move, but without the heaviness of need. And this way of being feels effortless, not because there is no effort, but because there is no resistance. You are no longer spending your energy holding up a mask or a story that no longer serves you. You are simply being what you always were beneath the surface. Reawakening is not something that happens outside of you. It is not granted by anyone else. It is the return to your original self, the one not shaped by fear, by pain, or by expectation. It is the self that was always there, waiting patiently beneath all the layers you thought you needed to survive. And the more you release, the more you remember, the more you let go, the more you return. This return is quiet, gentle, often unnoticed by the world. But within you, it feels like coming home. When you begin to detach from what no longer serves you, let go of what you cannot control, and stop identifying with the pain of your past, something powerful begins to unfold. Your true self rises, not the self shaped by fear, noise, or pressure, but the one that moves with clarity, calm, and quiet strength. A self that is no longer chasing timelines or clinging to outcomes, but standing present in each moment with trust and stillness. In that silence, you reclaim what was always yours, your focus, your peace, your inner power. And from that place, you no longer react to life. You respond. You no longer seek control. You create space. And in that space, you return to the essence of who you are, whole and